Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Monster Hunter video. I know that some of you never thought I'd say that again, because I sure did. But there is some stuff I do want to talk about today, and those are some updated versions of my Endgame mix sets. More specifically, those sets for the Longsword and the Greatsword. A lot has changed, so let's get into it. Before I jump into the actual builds, I just want to preface this by saying that almost every single Endgame set now is just the Draken armor. Seriously, it's that overpowered. You can take any melee weapon, wear a full set of Draken gear, and you're more than good to go. Just straight up. So if you wanted a short answer of what is the best updated endgame set, that's it. Wear the Draken set. So in this video, you will see a lot of the Draken gear. The main focus of my sets will be more of the spare pieces from the Draken gear that you can swap out to fully optimize your setup, and the jewels that you should use. By the way, I think this also goes without saying, but apparently not. These builds use rare jewels. If you don't have them, I'm sorry, good luck, but I can't do anything about that. Thank you. Next. Alright, so first up, the Longsword. For the Longsword, we're going to be using the Divine Slasher, of course. It's still the best Longsword in the game. Nothing has changed in that department. This one will have a health regen augment, since it'll give you the highest value of the three options available to you. Attack is meh. Affinity is overkill, because you'll be overcapping your affinity. And then slot upgrades are pretty much unnecessary as well. So having a health regen augment is just nice to have, and I think it'll give you the best bang for your buck. This thing also has a spare level 3 slot. You can feel free to use this slot for whatever you want. I opted for a Mind's Eye Jewel, so I don't bounce off randomly, and since I'll have 50% crit chance, I'll have a decent chance of critting the monster even without hitting a weak spot, and I won't lose sharpness that way as well. For the helmet, we're going to be using the Nergigante helm. It doesn't matter which one, just fill it with attack jewels. If you have a spare one, use beta, and if not alpha, same thing as before. And then the rest of the armor pieces will all be the Draken armor set, which means that your chest, gauntlets, coil, and boots, they're all Draken gear. To fill them out, you'll need 3 tenderizer jewels, 1 critical jewel, and an elementless jewel to get everything up and running. And for our charm, we'll be using the Handicraft Charm 3. As a whole, this would give you Critical Eye level 6, 5 levels of attack boost, maxed out critical boost, maxed out weakness exploit, 3 levels of handicraft to net us that white sharpness, 2 levels of maximum might, 1 spare level of power prolonger, Mind's Eye, and a non-elemental boost. As you can see, this is why the Draken armor is so strong. It gives you affinity, damage, and a bunch of high level slots just straight off the bat, as well as an insanely powerful set bonus. And that is probably the most important part of this whole thing, Master's Touch, which doesn't decrease your sharpness whenever you crit. And since this gives you so much crit just right off the bat with high levels of critical eye, I paired it with maximum might, and this gives you a very high base crit chance even without weakness exploit. So basically, even if you miss a weak spot, you still have a 1 in 2 chance of landing a crit, which will preserve your white and blue sharpness considerably and therefore increase your damage over the span of a fight. In this, you also have a bunch of attack boost levels and a non-elemental boost upping your damage overall, and a spare level of power prolonger that's actually not wasted at all on Longsword, since it will let you keep your red spirit gauge a bit longer. Realistically, this won't see that much use, but still, it's not a stat like Focus or something like that, or, well, actually Focus wouldn't even be wasted on Longsword, but you guys get the idea, you know. Now, to achieve a very similar thing with the Greatsword. For the weapon, we're going to be using the Wyvern Ignition Impact. Again, the best Greatsword in the game. That still hasn't changed. This one we're going to augment it for 2 slot upgrades, and we're going to slot it with 2 expert jewels and a mighty jewel. For the armor, you're going to need an Empress Coil beta. We're starting off with the piece that isn't Draken gear. So you'll need an Empress Coil beta, that's the Lunastra coil beta, the base Lunastra coil, and you're going to slot it with 2 tenderizer jewels. The rest of the armor is once again going to be Draken armor sets, so you're going to use a Draken helm, chest, gauntlets, and boots. You'll need 1 extra expert jewel and handicraft jewel to be slotted onto the helmet. You'll need an elementless jewel for the chest piece, a 3rd tenderizer jewel for the legs, and for the charm, we're going to be using the Attack Charm 3. But if you don't like having more than 4 attack boost, you can alternatively fill the sword with attack jewels instead, and then use whatever other charm you might like a handicraft charm or something like that, or maybe a focus charm. All up to you. But as a whole, this set would give you 7 levels of critical eye, 6 levels of attack boost, maxed out critical boost, weakness exploit, and maximum might, 2 spare levels of tool specialist, 1 level of handicraft, airborne, and a non-elemental boost. Basically, this gives you everything the longsword set has. It's essentially the old greatsword build, but you also have airborne, so if you wanted to do a airborne greatsword set, or play with it airborne, you also can. And you don't need to focus on giving your Wyvern Ignition so much handicraft, because since you have Master's Touch, you won't really be losing like any sharpness ever. And, you know, having 2 spare levels of Tool Specialist is always welcome in my book. It's a really underrated perk, and I love using it. It gives you your mantles back and your boosters back faster, so it's just a nice thing to have. And that's pretty much it, lads. Those are my updated endgame sets for the Longsword and the Greatsword. I decided to pile them together in one video because they are so similar. Kinda sucks just because this one armor set, the Draken armor set, is so dominant over everything else. Like, before, it used to be like the eye patch Nergigante meta, then it became the Kolv to Roth meta, but then we had the Lunastra meta. But even then, with all of those different metas, like each armor piece or each armor set just kind of became a bit stronger than the rest, there was still a bunch of space for you to kind of cater your build a little bit more personally, or a little bit more to your own personal preference. But it's just, if you're not using Draken, you're pretty much trolling. Like, it's just so strong. At least for melee weapons, almost any melee weapon just benefits so much from this. Dual blades, longsword, greatsword, charge blade, switch axe, like even hammer. But anyway, I kind of hope Capcom just makes more armor sets that are just as strong, because the recent Gamma armors have been quite questionable, to say the least. But anyway, I'm gonna make another video. I'll be uploading a light bowgun updated set probably tomorrow using the new Zenjiva Gamma armor set, so stay tuned for that, guys. Also, I'll be streaming all week long, so stay posted. I'll be streaming on YouTube now. But anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you for sticking around, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.